The desert sun slammed down on southern New Mexico, burning the cracked earth under a pale, pitiless sky. Jesse Coulter squinted into the glare. Throat raw, canteen empty for 6 long hours, each one louder than the last. His bay mare stumbled beneath him, sides heaving. They had ridden hard since dawn, running from a horse thief who'd tried to take his mount at gunpoint near the Rio Grande. Jesse's shoulder burned, where a bullet had grazed him, hot pain with every step. Stopping meant dying out here. So he kept going. Weathered hands locked on the reins as heat danced off the ground, mirages sliding in and out of focus like cruel promises. The mare's legs finally gave out near a dry creek bed. Jesse toppled into dust and heat, the world spinning, lips split and bleeding. Vultures would find him soon. He knew it cold as truth. He was 28. He'd outlived cattle drives, raids, bar fights, but the desert? The desert didn't care. Darkness pressed in from the edges. Sand tasted like sleep. Hoofbeats thundered through his fading mind. A figure shaped itself against the burning sky, a woman in a dark riding dress, face hidden by a wide-brimmed hat. Cool hands touched his brow, a voice crisp as autumn. Still breathing. Amelia Prescott knelt beside him. She'd been riding the eastern fence of her late husband's, now her vast ranch, when she'd seen vultures circling. Her gloved fingers found a pulse. Weak, steady. The stranger was rough-hewn, sun-dark, whiskered. His clothes were trail-worn, patched. Blood soaked his shoulder. His lips were white with thirst. Every practical thought said, "Leave him." Every part of her refused. She whistled sharply. 2 ranch hands appeared over the rise. "Load him into the wagon," she ordered. Her tone allowed no debate. Carefully. Miguel, her foreman, frowned under a thick mustache. "Señora, this man. A human being in need." She cut in. "That's all I need to know." Her green eyes went hard. "And Miguel, no word of this. He goes in the West Wing, away from the staff." The men traded looks, but obeyed. They'd learned. Mrs. Prescott's choices kept the ranch profitable, even after her husband died 2 years ago. Sense could look strange. It still worked. The wagon rattled home across rough ground as the sun slid toward the mountains. Amelia rode beside it, studying the unconscious man's strong jaw, straight nose, stubborn brows, the look of someone who'd survived too much and kept going anyway. The Prescott Ranch sprawled over 5,000 acres. The big house Eastern money planted in western dust rose with white columns and a wide veranda. Imported glass caught the dying light. Civilization carved into wilderness. Jesse woke to softness. A shock. Clean sheets. Blue damask on the walls. A pitcher of water shining on a mahogany table. For a heartbeat he wondered if he'd died and landed somewhere kinder. The door opened. The woman from the heat haze stepped into lamplight. Amelia Prescott. About 25, auburn hair pulled tight, a face that might have been beautiful if the mouth didn't hold itself like a locked box. She set down a tray with bandages and medicine. "You're awake. Good. I was starting to think I'd wasted my efforts." Her voice didn't invite argument. Jesse tried to sit. Pain shoved him back. "Where am I?" "The Prescott Ranch. I found you half dead by Skeleton Creek." She poured water. "Drink slowly." Water touched his tongue like mercy. He swallowed, then studied her. "Why help me? I've been asking myself the same question," she said, unwrapping the blood-stiff bandage. "Maybe I have a weakness for strays." "Hold still." Her hands were gentle. Her manner wasn't. Lavender soap and iron will. It had been a long time since a woman touched him with anything close to care. "I don't take charity," he rasped. "Then you'll die foolish," she replied. "This isn't charity. When you're healed, you'll repay the debt. I collect what I'm owed." He watched the tightness in her shoulders, the distance she kept even while helping. "You always pick up half-dead cowboys, Mrs. Prescott." "Ma'am, or Mrs. Prescott," she corrected, sharp as a spur. "And no, you're an exception." As she reached for clean bandages, her sleeve lifted. Yellowed bruises ringed her wrist, old ghosts. Jesse saw them, said nothing. In the territories, secrets walked beside everyone. Days blurred. Fever. Sleep. Slow healing. Through the window he learned the house's rhythm boots at dawn, cattle lowing, a dinner bell that never missed 6. Amelia came twice daily. Professional. Precise. Somehow that made her more intriguing. On the 4th day, he saw a scene through the glass. A slick man with pomaded hair stood at the steps, hat in hand, while Amelia faced him straight-backed. 2 years is enough mourning, he called. Herbert would want you practical. Mr. Davidson, she said, voice cold as December. I buried one husband. I won't acquire another. Good day. You can't manage alone, he persisted. Ranchers talk. A woman needs protection. A woman needs many things, she answered. A banker with wandering hands and half my late husband's fortune in debt is not among them. Davidson retreated, red and sputtering. Amelia glanced up. Her eyes met Jesse's through the window. For a breath he saw something raw, not weakness, exactly. A fierce loneliness, recognizing its mirror. That evening she brought supper herself. Silence stretched until Jesse said, That banker gives you trouble? Nothing I can't handle. Fork paused, then moved again. Men like that don't accept no easily. Men like that underestimate what a woman will do to keep her freedom, she added, meeting his gaze. Why were you running, Mr. Coulter? He almost lied. Chose not to. Horse thief tried to take my mare. We disagreed. She nodded once. In this country, justice came fast. Your mare's fine. Eating better than she has in months. I'm obliged, he said. You're obliged for more than that. Her tone softened by a hair. You spoke in your fever. Kansas City. A woman named Rose. His jaw set. That's finished. As you say. She rose, smoothing gray skirts. Your shirt's ruined. I'll have a hand bring you one. You're mending well. In a few days, you start earning your keep. She left with the dishes, efficient as a clock. Jesse lay back, shoulder throbbing, mind circling the puzzle of Amelia Prescott. Widow dressed like a spinster. Ran a kingdom with steady hands. Saved a dying stranger, yet held the world at arm's length. He'd known warmer women. He'd never known one that made the air feel this charged. Outside, the desert wind wailed, rattling the windows. Jesse closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. His thoughts tangled, green eyes, careful hands. The strange line between kindness and obligation. What kind of woman built walls so high she couldn't let anyone close? By morning, he could stand on his own. Pain clung to his shoulder. But he refused another day in bed. Miguel met him at the stables. Suspicion in every glance. Senora Prescott says you know horses. I've worked with them some, Jesse said lightly. Understatement of the year. Miguel led him to a corral filled with half-wild mustangs. Nervous, snorting, eyes rolling white. A black stallion with a white blaze guarded the others like a king. These came in yesterday, Miguel explained. The men can't get near them without losing teeth or blood. Think you can do better? Jesse studied the herd, noting every twitch and shift. I'll need rope, grain, and time. And keep your men clear. Horses can smell fear and stupidity. Miguel's mouth twitched, but he barked orders. By noon, half the ranch gathered, whispering, curious to see what the stranger could do. Jesse didn't rush. He sat on the fence, whittling, humming tunelessly, letting the horses learn his scent and sound. He's not even trying, muttered one young hand. Shut up and watch, Miguel said quietly, though he didn't hide his own doubt. By the second day the stallion ventured close, nostrils flaring. Jesse didn't reach, didn't even look directly, just kept whittling, calm as stone. Incredible, breathed Tom, a wide-eyed ranch hand. Been trying to get near that devil for 3 days. From her study window, Amelia watched, unable to look away. She'd planned to review accounts but found herself drawn to the silent duel of wills in the corral. Jesse's patience impressed her. Most men would force the animals into submission. Jesse was earning their trust instead. By the 3rd day, the stallion ate grain from Jesse's hand. By the 5th, Jesse ran his hands along the black's flanks, checking for injury. The same men who'd mocked the invalid now watched with grudging respect. Where'd you learn that? Tom asked, awe in his voice. From Samuel Yellow Feather in Wyoming, Jesse replied. coiling his rope. Apache horse trainer. Taught me that breaking a horse's spirit breaks its worth. Better to convince them partnership's their idea. Work felt good. Honest. Jesse threw himself into it, teaching younger hands, fixing broken tack, rising before dawn. Physical labor kept his mind from dwelling on Kansas City, on Rose, and most dangerously, on Amelia Prescott. Amelia kept her distance by day, but Jesse always sensed her nearby, inspecting repairs, watching him with the horses, her gaze sharp and cool. She never praised, only offered exacting critique. Jesse found himself craving her rare nods of approval. The bunkhouse whispered at night. "Never seen her take such interest in a hired man," one muttered. "Maybe she's lonely up there in that big house," another said crudely. Jesse's fists clenched. "Watch your mouth," he said without looking up. "Woman saved my life. Show some respect." Cal, the oldest hand, sneered. "Defensive, ain't you? Sure you're just working horses, cowboy." Jesse stood slowly, towering over him. "I'm sure you'll keep those thoughts to yourself, unless you'd like to discuss them outside." The room fell silent. Cal muttered and turned away. The talk didn't stop. In small, isolated places, gossip spread like wildfire. Jesse knew it. Amelia surely did too. And still, she came to the corral most evenings, expression unreadable. A week later, a storm rolled in from the west. Black clouds stacked like mountains. Lightning slashing the sky. Wind howled like a living thing. "Drive the horses in," Miguel shouted. Jesse ran with the others, soaked to the skin, shoving terrified animals into shelter. "The water tanks," Miguel bellowed over the storm. "Main pipes loose, we'll lose pressure to the house." Jesse followed him through, pelting rain to the pump house. Mud sucked at their boots. They worked by lamplight, tools slipping in wet hands. "Hold it steady," Miguel barked. Jesse gripped the pipe while the foreman tightened bolts. Lightning cracked. In the doorway stood Amelia, rain streaming down her face, oilcloth coat clinging to her frame. "The house is losing water," she shouted. 20 minutes, maybe more." Miguel yelled back. Without hesitation, Amelia waded into the muck beside them. "Show me what to do." Together, they fought the storm, mud streaking her dress, hair plastered to her cheeks. When the last valve tightened and the water surged back, the three of them collapsed, filthy and exhausted. "Thank you," Amelia said simply. In the lantern light, stripped of control, she looked younger, almost fragile. It stirred something fierce and protective in Jesse. Back at the warm kitchen, Maria, the cook, fussed over them with towels and coffee. Miguel left to check the animals, leaving Jesse and Amelia alone by the iron stove. "You didn't have to come out there," Jesse said. "It's my land, my responsibility." Her hands shook faintly as she dried them. "You weren't obligated to help," he pressed. "Maybe I wasn't doing it for obligation." The words hung heavy between them. Amelia's eyes met his, then flickered away. "You should change into dry clothes," she said briskly. "Maria can find you something of Herbert's. Your husband. Late husband." Her voice flattened. "I'm sorry for your loss," Jesse said carefully. A bitter smile curved her lips. "Are you? Most who say that didn't know Herbert. If they had, they'd congratulate me instead." The admission struck like a gunshot. Jesse stayed silent, giving her room. "My pa used to say death doesn't make saints of sinners," he offered finally. "Your father sounds wise. He was a mean drunk who died in a knife fight, but he had his moments." Amelia studied him, seeing something beneath the rough cowboy. "We're a pair, aren't we?" "Both carrying ghosts," she murmured. "Difference is, mine's buried in Kansas City. Yours is buried on this land." She flinched, then turned abruptly. "Maria will bring clothes to your room. Good night." As she reached the door, Jesse asked, "That banker Davidson, he been back?" She froze. "Why? Men like him don't give up easy. Might need a clearer message." Her green eyes flashed like steel. "What language, Mr. Coulter?" "Violence," he said softly, "or the promise of it." Their gazes locked. She turned and left without a word. Jesse stayed in the kitchen, fists tight. The idea of anyone threatening her filled him with a rage he couldn't name. The next morning dawned clear. Jesse found Amelia in the stable, hand on a pregnant mare's flank. She wore a plain brown dress, her hair in a simple braid. "I owe you an apology," she said without looking up. "For what?" "For speaking too freely last night." "Nothing to apologize for," Jesse said. "Nevertheless," she continued, "I've worked hard to keep boundaries with my employees. We must remember that." His chest tightened. Disappointment, sharp and deep. "If that's what you want." "What I want doesn't matter. What I need is to protect my reputation." She turned, eyes blazing. "I know what they're whispering about you, about me. I won't let my name be dragged through mud." "Then maybe I should move to the bunkhouse," he offered. "No." The word came too fast, too sharp. She caught herself, tone softer. "No. That would only fuel rumors. You'll stay in the house until your shoulder heals. But we must be careful." "Careful? Of what exactly?" Jesse stepped closer, close enough to see her pulse flutter. "You know what?" Her voice broke. She backed into the stall door. "Everything about you bothers me. The way you handle the horses," she blurted, trembling. "The way you stood up to Cal. The way you—" She stopped, lips pressed tight. "The way I what?" Jesse's voice was low, coaxing. "The way you look at me like you see past all of it." Her breath caught, eyes glimmering in the dim light of the stable. The mare snorted softly, breaking the tension for a heartbeat. Jesse stepped back, giving her space. "Maybe that's because I do. Maybe I see a woman who's built walls so high, she's forgotten what it's like to have someone on her side of them." Amelia's laugh was brittle, like glass cracking. "And you think you should be that someone? A drifter who'll vanish the moment his debt's paid? Maybe. Or maybe I'm just someone who knows what it feels like to be alone and thinks you deserve better." Her composure shattered. She fled the cond, stable, skirts swishing like angry whispers, leaving Jesse surrounded by restless horses and his own turbulent thoughts. He'd spoken true. Soon he'd leave. His debt was nearly paid, his shoulder nearly healed. Work awaited elsewhere, cattle drives, new horizons. But as he watched Amelia disappear into the house, spine straight with effort, Jesse wondered if some debts weren't counted in days or dollars. Some debts were measured in understanding. The black stallion nudged Jesse's shoulder, demanding grain. Jesse rubbed the animal's neck, thinking about broken things, horses, people, and whether they could ever trust again. Through the stable door, he glimpsed Amelia's silhouette framed in an upstairs window, still as a ghost. "Careful," he murmured. Whether it was for himself or for her, he couldn't say. The territories taught a man to be careful. Careful was survival. But Jesse wondered, was surviving the same as living? The trouble arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, riding in an expensive black carriage polished like a preacher's shoes. Jesse was working a yearling when the wheels creaked to a stop in front of the house. A heavy-set man stepped out, soft and smug, mutton chop whiskers bristling. Jesse recognized the type. Men who grew fat off other people's ruin. "Mr. Garrison," Miguel greeted flatly, his dislike barely hidden. Senora Prescott wasn't expecting visitors. "Mrs. Prescott's expectations are irrelevant," Garrison replied smoothly. "I'm here on behalf of Herbert Prescott's estate." From the corral, Jesse saw Amelia emerge from the house. She wore her most severe black dress, her version of armor. Her face gave nothing away. "Mr. Garrison, what brings you here uninvited?" "Hardly a pleasure visit," he said, drawing papers from his case. "Questions have arisen about your late husband's death. Certain parties believe an investigation is warranted." "Herbert died of a heart ailment," Amelia said evenly. "Dr. Morrison signed the death certificate." "So sudden," Garrison mused. "For a man of 42 in apparent good health. And so convenient. Just months after he altered his will to leave everything to you." Jesse's muscles went taut, vultures circling. "If you have accusations, Mr. Garrison, take them to court," Amelia said coldly. "Otherwise, leave my land." Garrison's smile sharpened. "I represent Herbert's brother, Cyrus Prescott. He believes his dear sister-in-law would be more comfortable with A modest allowance and a townhouse. This ranch is far too much for a woman alone. The ranch is mine by law. Laws can be reinterpreted, Garrison purred, especially when fresh evidence surfaces. He leaned closer. For instance, did you know we've located Rosa Mendez in El Paso? She has fascinating memories of that night. Arguments, bruises, things she was told to hide. Amelia went rigid. Rosa was dismissed for theft. So you say. A jury might find her story compelling, especially when combined with other irregularities. His eyes slid to Jesse like a knife. Realization hit Jesse like a blow. Someone had been watching, reporting. I don't know what you're implying, Amelia said, voice like ice. Nothing. But people might wonder why a grieving widow brought a strange man into her home, tended him personally, kept him close. Garrison's oily tone dripped with suggestion. Jesse vaulted the fence, strolling up with casual menace, his hand hovering near his hip where his gun wasn't but could be. Afternoon, he drawled. Can't help overhearing. This doesn't concern you, Cowboy, Garrison snapped. Oh, it does, Jesse said softly. I work here. A man comes threatening my employer? That's my concern. Threats? I'm merely discussing legal matters. Legal matters don't include gossip and lies, Jesse countered. His smile was dangerous. Amelia's voice cut sharp. Mr. Coulter. But Jesse ignored her. He stepped close enough to smell Garrison's pomade. Where I'm from, calling a lady's reputation into question. Those are fighting words. Garrison paled. I'll have you arrested for threatening me. Threatening? Jesse's tone dropped to a lethal whisper. Just explaining frontier justice. See? Out here. Men who spread lies sometimes disappear. Garrison stumbled back, clutching his papers. This isn't over, Mrs. Prescott. My client has influence. You can't fight the inevitable. Watch me, Amelia said, quiet and fierce. The carriage rattled away in a cloud of dust. Silence lingered. Ranch hands scattered, sensing the storm brewing between Amelia and Jesse. How dare you? Amelia hissed, spinning on him. Pardon? Jesse blinked. I didn't ask for your protection. I don't need you fighting my battles. That man was threatening you. Yes, and I've known from the day Herbert died that his family would come for what's mine. I've been preparing for this. Then why? Because now Cyrus has proof, she shouted. Proof that I have an inappropriate relationship with a violent drifter. You gave him exactly what he wanted. The words cut deeper than Jesse expected. I was trying to help. I don't want your help, she snapped. I want you to do your job and leave me to handle my affairs. She turned, but Jesse caught her arm. You think you can face this alone? That man means to destroy you. Men have been trying to destroy me since I was 16. She spat, and yet here I stand. They were too close now. Her breath warm, lavender mingling with rage. Her eyes flickered, fear melting into something else entirely. Let me go, she whispered, but she didn't move away. Amelia, Jesse said, her name rough on his tongue. Don't, she pleaded. Don't say my name like that. Don't look at me like I'm worth saving. You are, he said simply. You don't know me, she gasped. I know enough. No, you know nothing. She tore free, backing away like a cornered wildcat. You see a widow to protect. But what if they're right? What if I'm exactly what they say? I am a calculating woman who married for money. I wouldn't believe it. Jesse's voice was steady. What if I told you I was glad when Herbert died? That I celebrated? Then I'd say he gave you reason enough. Her face crumbled. Go away, Jesse. Pack your things. You're dismissed. No, he growled. Not like this. Not with wolves circling while you stand alone. I've always been alone, she shouted. Maybe that's the problem. Her laugh was jagged. The problem is men who think they know better. Herbert thought he knew better when he isolated me, controlled me, and when I finally fought back. She stopped, horror flashing. When you fought back? Jesse coaxed. Tell me. Nothing. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. The night Herbert died, she whispered, trembling. He came to my room. He was drunk, angry. I fought him. He stumbled, clutched his chest, fell. Her hands shook violently. I could have called for help sooner. I didn't. I watched him gasp for breath, and I felt relieved. Jesse stepped forward slowly, like calming a skittish horse. Sounds like you defended yourself against a man who'd hurt you before. That's not murder. That's survival. The law might disagree. To hell with the law. His hand cupped her cheek. You did what you had to do. I'm not a good woman, Jesse, she choked. I'm not worth your protection. That's where you're wrong. You're the strongest woman I've ever met. She broke then, sagging into his arms. Her sobs ripped through the silence. For the first time, Amelia Prescott let someone hold her while she fell apart. Jesse held her, steady as a rock in a storm. She'd been strong for so long, she didn't know how to lean on anyone anymore. He whispered nothing, just warmth and presence, until her sobs eased into shaky breaths. When Amelia finally pulled back, shame and embarrassment rushed into her eyes, replacing vulnerability. She tried to retreat, but Jesse didn't let her go far. We need a plan, he said firmly. You can't, she began. This isn't just your fight anymore, Jesse interrupted. It's mine now, too. Cyrus came after you. That makes it personal. Amelia swiped at her tears, gathering herself. Jesse, please. If Cyrus suspects anything about us, he'll use it. He already is, Jesse said grimly. Man questions your honor. He's questioning mine, too. Can't have that. Despite everything, a flicker of amusement sparked in her eyes. Your reputation was never exactly spotless. All the more reason to defend what little I've got, Jesse said with a wry half-smile. Her shoulders squared. Cyrus won't stop. He believes women shouldn't inherit property. He thinks I bewitched Herbert into leaving it to me. Then we make sure he doesn't get the chance to steal it. Jesse replied. How? She asked. First, we find Rosa before Cyrus does, Jesse said. Get her story. Maybe convince her to tell the truth. With what? Cyrus probably paid her already. Amelia's voice was sharp. Money's not the only currency, Jesse countered. You said you caught her stealing jewelry. Your jewelry or Herbert's? Amelia froze. Herbert's mother's ring. He kept it in my box. Rosa always admired it. Maybe she didn't steal for greed, Jesse said softly. Maybe she took it as leverage or revenge. Amelia's face went pale. Her sister worked at a band saloon in town. She would have been 16 then. Herbert was a regular. Jesse's jaw hardened. That's motive enough. We need to find Rosa, Jesse said. If we know her truth, Cyrus's lies fall apart. And if she won't help? Amelia asked, her voice trembling. Then we prepare for war. Jesse's tone left no doubt what that meant. He cupped her face gently. No more secrets, Amelia. Tell me everything about Herbert, about Cyrus, about anyone else who might come crawling out of the dark. Why? She asked, almost a whisper. Because I care, he said simply. Because I know what it's like to lose everything. And because when I look at you, I see home. For a moment, her defenses cracked again. She leaned into his touch before stepping back. Not now, she murmured. Not with so much at stake. I understand, Jesse said softly. But when this is over, when you're safe, we talk about what this is between us. They planned deep into the night. Amelia shared every dark detail she'd kept buried. Herbert's debts, Cyrus's shady deals, the enemies who might side with him. By dawn, Jesse knew the battlefield they were about to face. Smart thing would have been to saddle his horse and disappear into the horizon. But Jesse Coulter had never been accused of doing the smart thing. He wasn't leaving, not when Amelia Prescott stood alone against wolves, not when every instinct screamed she was worth fighting for. 3 weeks later, Amelia sat at her desk, staring at an anonymous letter written in a careful, educated hand. Your sins are known. Your lover may have fled, but justice remains. Prepare yourself for judgment. She fed it to the flames, watching the paper curl and blacken. She'd survived worse than cowardly threats, but her hands trembled as she poured whiskey, a habit she'd picked up since Jesse's absence. Miguel knocked softly. "Señora, there's trouble in town. Williams, the postal clerk, says people are asking questions about the cowboy." Amelia's heart clenched. "Jesse? What about him?" "He's been seen working at the stage depot, loading cargo, but others are watching him, asking." "Thank you, Miguel," she said, keeping her voice steady until he left. Inside, she paced like a caged panther. Jesse hadn't left the territory. He was close, too close. The noble fool should have ridden to Colorado, to anywhere far from Cyrus's reach. That night, Amelia stood at her window, staring at the moonlit desert. She remembered Jesse working with the horses by lamplight, his hands sure and gentle. She remembered his hands on her skin. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of pretending she didn't ache for him, pretending she didn't wake from dreams where he stayed. The next morning, trouble arrived on her doorstep. Banker Davidson returned this time with Cyrus himself. Herbert's brother was a meaner, thinner shadow of him, eyes sharp like a ferret's. "Amelia," Cyrus said with false warmth, "you look tired. Running this ranch must be overwhelming." "My ranch," she corrected coolly, "and I manage just fine." "Do you?" Davidson asked, producing documents. "We have sworn statements about your irregular arrangements. A drifter living in your home, sharing private moments." "Mr. Coulter was an employee who required medical care," Amelia said. "Nothing improper occurred." "Nothing improper?" Cyrus sneered. "Then why send him away so suddenly?" "His employment ended. Cowboys move on." Amelia's tone was ice. "Yes," Davidson said slyly. "But they don't usually stay so close, almost as if waiting." Amelia's pulse spiked. "We've had Mr. Coulter under observation," Davidson continued. "He asks about you. Seems quite concerned for a former employer." The thought of Jesse asking about her, risking himself for her, nearly broke her in composure. "What Mr. Coulter does is none of my concern," she said evenly. "Isn't it?" Cyrus stepped closer. "Because I think you're still in communication, and I think this separation is just a clever lie to hide your sordid affair." "You think wrong," Amelia snapped. "Do I?" Cyrus's smile was poison. "Then you won't mind if certain accidents encourage Mr. Coulter to leave the territory entirely." Ice filled Amelia's veins. "If anything happens to him." "Yes?" Cyrus interrupted, pouncing. "What will you do?" "Fascinating that you care so deeply for a man who means nothing to you." He'd trapped her. Her reaction confirmed his suspicions. Amelia forced her voice flat. "I simply dislike threats against innocent people. Jesse has done nothing wrong." "That remains to be seen," Davidson cut in. "But we're not here about him. Sign over the ranch, Amelia. Take a generous allowance and a townhouse. Refuse, and we proceed with a full investigation into Herbert's death." "My answer remains no," Amelia said, each word a blade. "You stupid woman," Cyrus exploded. "You can't win. I have judges in my pocket, witnesses ready to destroy your name. Your precious cowboy can't save you." "I don't need saving," Amelia said coldly. "Get out of my house." Cyrus stormed out, Davidson scrambling after him. Alone, Amelia sank into a chair, trembling. They were watching Jesse, threatening him. She'd tried to protect him by sending him away and failed. That night, she made a decision that would scandalize every proper lady she'd ever known. She dressed in borrowed men's clothes, hair hidden beneath a hat. In the stable, she saddled her mare silently. "Going somewhere, Señora?" Miguel's voice came from the shadows. He stepped forward, expression knowing but calm. "Miguel, The black stallion's been restless," he interrupted smoothly. "Might do him good to run." He met her gaze. "A rider who knows the back trails could reach town unseen. Visit the stage depot after midnight, when the night guard takes his break." Amelia stared, then understood. Miguel was giving her cover. "Thank you," she whispered. "No thanks needed. Just bring him home safe," Miguel said. The ride through darkness was terrifying and exhilarating. Amelia had never traveled alone at night. But Jessie's life burned brighter than her fear. The depot lay quiet under the stars. She found his window by instinct. Her tap was soft, but the window scraped open instantly. Jessie appeared, shirtless and alert, gun in hand until he saw her. Amelia. His voice was raw with disbelief. "What the hell? They're watching you," she hissed. "Cyrus and Davidson. They made threats. You have to leave." He hauled her inside, scanning the shadows. "If anyone saw you, I don't care." Her voice cracked. "I sent you away to protect you. But they know. They know I still..." "Still what?" he demanded, stepping closer. She saw the lines of exhaustion on his face, the fire in his eyes. "Still think about you," she whispered. "Still wake up reaching for you. Still love you." Her confession broke something inside him. "Amelia," he said hoarsely, pulling her into his arms. "Sweetheart, I've been going crazy these weeks, knowing you were facing them alone. I'm tired of being alone," she sobbed. "Tired of fighting everyone and everything. When you were here, I could breathe." He kissed her fiercely. She melted against him, desperation and longing exploding between them. For a moment, there was no danger, only the two of them finally colliding. When they parted, both breathless, Jessie's forehead rested against hers. "This is madness," he said. "If I come back, I stay until this ends. One way or another. I'd rather face it with you than hide behind walls." "Amelia," he said. "Please, come back." "All right," he said, decision sealing like steel. "But we do this smart. I'll return openly as a hired hand. Let them watch. Let them underestimate us." "And at night?" she asked softly. "At night." His grin turned wicked. "We plan how to beat them at their own game." A noise outside startled them. The guard returning. Jessie helped Amelia back through the window, stealing one last kiss. "Tomorrow," he promised. "Look for me at sundown." She rode home through moonlight, her body alive with hope and fear. In her room, another anonymous letter waited. "We know where you went tonight." Amelia folded it carefully instead of burning it. If Cyrus wanted to play dirty, she'd meet him in the mud. At dawn, Amelia stood at her window, but instead of loneliness, she felt something new. Hope, fierce and fragile. Jessie would return at sundown, and whatever came next, they'd face it together. She pressed her fingers to her lips, still feeling the echo of his kiss. For the first time in weeks, she smiled. The courtroom in Silver Creek overflowed with townsfolk hungry for scandal. The air buzzed with gossip and barely restrained hostility. Jessie sat in the gallery, jaw tight, eyes locked on Amelia as she entered. She wore her severe black dress like armor, chin raised despite the whispering mob. 3 months had passed since Jessie's return to the ranch. 3 months of careful distance in daylight, while the walls between them fell each night in secret. Their caution hadn't been enough. Cyrus had struck back with the full weight of his influence. At dawn, the sheriff's men had stormed the ranch, arresting Amelia for conspiracy in Herbert Prescott's death. Judge Randolph presided, a gaunt man with the cold, calculating eyes of someone already bought and paid for. Miguel sat beside Jessie, both men tense. They'd been barred from testifying, labeled inappropriate associates. District Attorney Morrison, a young, ambitious man eager for Cyrus's favor, addressed the jury of all male property owners. "Gentlemen," he declared, "we will prove that Amelia Prescott, driven by greed and lust, conspired to hasten her husband's death." He pointed at her dramatically. "She took a lover before her husband's body was cold. She represents the rot at the heart of civilization. A woman like this cannot be trusted with land or legacy." Jessie's fists clenched. He'd expected lies, but hearing Amelia's dignity shredded in public filled him with a cold, lethal fury. Amelia sat tall at the defendant's table, her lawyer, a frail, elderly man named Hayes, resting a hand on hers in silent support. The first witness was Rosa Mendez, brought from El Paso under guard. She trembled as she took the stand, eyes darting between Amelia and the crowd. Morrison's voice softened with false sympathy. "Miss Mendez, you worked for the Prescott household?" "Yes," she whispered. 2 years. Tell us about the night Herbert Prescott died. There was shouting. He was drinking, angry about money. I heard him go to the Signora's room. Rosa's voice quavered. What did you hear then? Morrison pressed. Fighting. Things breaking. The Signora was crying, begging him to stop. Stop what, Miss Mendez? Morrison's tone sharpened. He hurt her sometimes when he drank. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. That night was bad. Are you saying Mrs. Prescott defended herself? I don't know. I heard him fall, heard him gasping. But the Signora, she didn't call for help. She waited. How long? 20 minutes. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Morrison's triumphant smile spread. 20 minutes while her husband lay dying. Tell me, Miss Mendez, did Mrs. Prescott ever speak of wanting him dead? Rosa looked directly at Amelia. Something unspoken passed between them. No, Rosa said firmly. She only wanted him to stop hurting her. Morrison's smile faltered. But she did take a lover, didn't she? This Jesse Coulter? Not then, Rosa insisted. Not until after. I never saw anything improper. Frustration sharpened Morrison's tone. You were dismissed for theft. Perhaps your testimony has been influenced? Rosa's composure shattered. She pointed at Davidson in the gallery. You threatened my family, she cried. You said my sister would lose her job, that we'd be driven from the territory if I didn't lie. The courtroom erupted. Judge Randolph slammed his gavel. Order. But the damage was done. The jury had heard the word threatened. Next came Dr. Morrison, who reluctantly admitted Herbert's heart was weak. Any shock could have killed him. Several servants testified, speaking of Amelia's lack of visible grief. Under Hayes's sharp questioning, they admitted they'd never witnessed anything improper between Amelia and Jesse. On the second day, Charles Davidson himself took the stand, dripping venom. She refused multiple offers of protection, he proclaimed. Ran the ranch like a man, bringing strange men into her home. And her relationship with Jesse Coulter? Morrison prompted. Scandalous. He lived in her house, ate at her table. The whole town knows it. Objection, Hayes thundered. Sustained, the judge muttered reluctantly. But the seeds were planted. Jesse scanned the jury, men like Cyrus, uncomfortable with a woman who wouldn't submit. Their expressions were grim, but not unreadable. Hayes stood, slow and deliberate. Jesse realized the old man had been playing weak on purpose, letting the prosecution overreach. The defense calls Mrs. Maria Santos, Hayes announced. Maria, the ranch cook, took the stand with quiet dignity. She described Amelia's life with Herbert. Isolation, terror, bruises hidden beneath fine clothes. He wouldn't let her leave the ranch without permission, Maria said, voice trembling. I bandaged her ribs, her arms. She lived like a prisoner. And the night Herbert died? Hayes asked. I heard him raging about losing money. He blamed her. When I found him in the morning, he was bruised. She was bruised worse. Did Mrs. Prescott ever speak of Jesse Coulter improperly? Maria's eyes softened. She spoke of him with respect, gratitude. He treated her like a human being, not property. If that was scandalous, Maria implied, then civilization itself was rotten. Witnesses followed, ranch hands, townsfolk, all painting a picture of survival, not scheming. The jury shifted uneasily. Finally, Amelia herself took the stand. She moved with quiet strength, green eyes steady as she faced the room. Herbert believed wives were possessions, she said simply. When I showed spirit, he crushed it. When I showed intelligence, he punished it. She swallowed hard. The night he died, he came to force himself on me. I fought. He clutched his chest and fell. Yes, I waited before calling for help. 20 minutes. I watched the man who tormented me struggle for breath. Her voice rang clear. I felt free. If that makes me a murderer, then I am guilty. But I will not apologize for surviving. The crowd exploded into shocked murmurs. Judge Randolph hammered his gavel. Morrison pounced for cross-examination. You admit you wanted him gone? Yes, Amelia said coolly. Gone, not murdered. You wasted no time replacing him, did you? How long before Jesse Coulter shared your bed? Gasps filled the room. Amelia's cheeks flushed, but her voice was iron. Mr. Coulter has been nothing but honorable. That's not what the whole town says, Morrison sneered. A grieving widow doesn't. I was not grieving. Amelia's control finally cracked. She stood, defiant. I was breathing for the first time in 7 years. Yes, I gave Jesse Coulter shelter when he was injured. Yes, I came to care for him, because he showed me kindness without trying to own me. Her voice carried to the rafters. If that offends you, judge me, but don't you dare call me a murderer for defending myself or immoral for wanting happiness after years of hell. The room erupted. Even the jury stared, shaken. Cyrus's face twisted with fury. Morrison tried one last thrust. If Coulter means nothing, why send him away? Amelia's gaze found Jesse. Tears glittered, but her chin stayed high. Because I knew men like you would use him to destroy me, she said. I sent him away to protect him. And yet he's here now. Morrison sneered. So there is something between you. Whatever exists between us, Amelia declared, is honest and true. Unlike this mockery of justice. Hayes rested his case with quiet confidence. His closing argument painted Amelia as a symbol of survival, while Morrison ranted about propriety and obedience. The jury filed out. Jesse paced outside, chain-smoking. Miguel stood silent, watchful. She was magnificent, Miguel murmured. Truth doesn't always win, Jesse muttered bitterly. After 3 agonizing hours, the jury returned. Not one met Amelia's eyes. Jesse's stomach sank. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, the foreman read, we find the defendant not guilty. The courtroom erupted in cheers and outrage, but the foreman continued. However, given the moral failings displayed, we recommend Mrs. Prescott's inheritance be placed under the oversight of a male relative for her protection. Cyrus's triumphant grin made Jesse's blood boil. Amelia was free but stripped of everything. Jesse surged forward, seizing her hands in full view of everyone. Marry me, he said loudly. Right now. Let's see them take what's ours. Amelia froze, staring at him as gasps rippled through the crowd. Jesse! You can't. I can. And I will, Jesse said fiercely. You sent me away to protect me. Now I'm protecting you. Marry me and Cyrus can't touch the ranch. It'll belong to your husband, just like their twisted rules demand. You'd be trapped, she whispered. He pulled her closer, voice steady and raw. I'd be home. Amelia, I'd rather be bound to you than free anywhere else. Say yes. For a long heartbeat, she searched his face. Then she turned to Judge Randolph, her chin high. Your Honor, I accept Mr. Coulter's proposal. Will you perform the ceremony? The judge sputtered. This is highly irregular. Hayes stepped forward smoothly. It's perfectly legal. Unless, of course, the court now claims the right to prevent lawful marriages. Trapped by his own prejudice, Randolph had no choice but to agree. 20 minutes later, in the same courtroom where Amelia had been tried for murder, she became Amelia Coulter. Cyrus stormed out, Davidson scrambling behind him. Their defeat bitter and obvious. The crowd roared with gossip, their whispers turning from scandal to outright disbelief. Jesse and Amelia didn't care. They were too busy holding hands, a united front against the world. As they signed the marriage certificate, Jesse bent close to whisper, I promise you'll never regret this. Amelia's lips curved into the first true smile since Herbert's death. I know I won't. They walked out of the courthouse together, side by side, ready to face the uncertain future. The town's judgment would be sharp and endless, but together, they could withstand it. Outside, Jesse grinned despite everything. Your place or mine? Ours, Amelia corrected, kissing him boldly in front of the shocked crowd. From now on, it's ours. The first days of their marriage were a delicate dance between appearances and truth. In public, they were proper. At home, they began to learn the rhythm of each other's lives. The ranch hands, initially stunned by the dramatic wedding, quickly accepted Jesse's new role. Frontier folk cared little about propriety as long as the work got done and the ranch stayed safe. But the town was less forgiving. When Amelia rode in for supplies, Women who once greeted her warmly now turned away. Shopkeepers served her coldly. Only a few allies, like the doctor's wife who'd seen Amelia's bruises, offered quiet support. Jesse accompanied her on these trips, his presence both shield and provocation. Banker Davidson made the mistake of accidentally brushing against Amelia on the boardwalk. Jesse's hand hovered near his gun, and Davidson backed off fast, pale as milk. "You don't have to fight every battle for me," Amelia said on the ride home. "Not fighting," Jesse replied calmly. "Just making it clear disrespecting my wife has consequences." The word wife still felt strange on his tongue, yet it rang right in a way that startled him. Their marriage might have begun as strategy, but it was becoming something deeper with each passing day. At the ranch, they maintained separate bedrooms for appearances, but in the evenings, they met in the study, working side by side over ledgers and plans. Amelia taught Jesse about the business of ranching beyond horses. In turn, Jesse helped her see problems from new angles. Slowly, partnership began to replace lonely independence. 3 weeks later, the first real test of their unity arrived. Jesse was breaking a spirited Mustang when riders appeared on the horizon. 8 men, heavily armed, their approach purposeful. Miguel's face went pale. "Buck Morrison," he hissed. "Hired gun. Works for whoever pays the most." Jesse handed the Mustang's lead to a ranch hand. "Get Amelia inside. Now." But Amelia was already emerging from the house, rifle in hand, her posture unshaken. Marriage had changed her. The brittle and control was gone, replaced by steel confidence. She moved like a commander, ready for war. "Gentlemen," Morrison called, halting just outside rifle range. "Looking for Jesse Coulter. Got business to discuss." Jesse stepped forward, hand near his holster. "State your business from there." "Unfriendly, aren't you?" Morrison smirked. "Heard you married well. Got yourself a rich widow and a fine spread." "Luck changes fast out here," Jesse said flatly. "Yours might run out entirely if you keep trespassing." Morrison's grin glinted like a blade. "We've got a mutual friend. Says maybe you're not as welcome here as you think. Says maybe this ranch is about to change hands." "Cyrus Prescott," Jesse growled. "Who said anything about Prescott?" Morrison shrugged, though he did mention something interesting. "Said you're not the real Jesse Coulter." The world seemed to tilt. "He says the real Coulter died in Kansas. Makes a man wonder who you really are." Morrison's smirk widened. "I'm the man standing between you and this land," Jesse said evenly. "That's all you need to know. Maybe, or maybe you're Samuel Wade, wanted in Missouri for killing a judge's son," Morrison said, relishing the reveal. Jesse's blood went cold. That life was supposed to be buried forever. "Cyrus says he's got proof," Morrison taunted. "And he'll pay well for your delivery, dead or alive." Behind Jesse, Amelia's breath caught, but she didn't flinch. She simply leveled her rifle, green eyes steady. "You've said your piece," she called. "Now get off our land." Morrison tipped his hat mockingly. "You've got 2 days. Wade disappears, or we come back with a marshal and warrants. Your choice." As the riders thundered off, Jesse stood rigid, waiting for Amelia's questions. The storm of anger never came. "Miguel, double the night watch," she ordered calmly. "Send Tom to town with an urgent telegram for Hayes." Then she turned to Jesse. "My study, now." Inside, Amelia poured 2 whiskeys with hands that didn't shake. She handed one to Jesse. "Samuel Wade?" she asked, her voice even. Jesse swallowed hard. "That was my name before. The judge's son, Alexander Thornton. He was drunk, violent, forcing himself on a saloon girl. I intervened. He pulled a knife. It was self-defense, but his father owned the law in that county. So I ran." "How long ago?" 6 years, Jesse admitted. "I became Jesse Coulter, buried Samuel Wade." Amelia's gaze was unreadable. "And you didn't think to tell me before you married me in a courthouse? Would it have changed your answer?" Jesse asked quietly. "No," she said after a moment. "But it would have been nice to know the battlefield before we walked onto it." "You think you're the only one with a past?" she added bitterly. "I told you I watched Herbert die. What I didn't say is that I could have saved him. Jesse froze. The medicine that might have helped his heart, I had it in my hand, Amelia confessed, and I chose not to give it. That's not the same, Jesse said gently. Isn't it? We both took lives to save ourselves. The only difference is, you used your hands. I used inaction. Jesse knelt beside her chair, gripping her hands. Whatever you were before, you're my wife now, and that means we fight this together. She cupped his face, voice fierce. If they arrest you, I'll fight for you like you fought for me. Hayes arrived the next morning, dusty from hard riding. After hearing their story, he slammed his fist on the desk. Blackmail. Intimidation. Cyrus has overplayed his hand. We'll turn this on him. Amelia pulled out a leather folder. Herbert's letters. Proof of Cyrus's illegal cattle rustling and bribes. I saved them for a day like this. Hayes's eyes gleamed. Oh, this will ruin him. And Morrison's men? Jesse asked. Once they hear Cyrus can't pay them, Hayes said with a sly grin, they'll scatter like cockroaches. By dawn of the second day, the ranch was fortified. Servants sent to town for safety. Only trusted men remained, rifles ready. When Morrison returned, he rode with only 3 men. The others had deserted. His scowl said he knew why. You've been busy, he called out, spreading lies about Mr. Prescott. Truth isn't lies, Jesse replied coldly. Before Morrison could respond, riders appeared from the East townspeople, even banker Davidson, grim-faced but united. Dr. Morrison raised his voice. This land belongs to the Coulters. We won't stand by while outsiders tear our community apart. Morrison's jaw tightened. Outnumbered, outgunned, he cursed. This ain't over. Yes, it is, Amelia said, stepping beside Jesse like a queen claiming her throne. Prescott's debts are called in. He's fled the territory, she bluffed. The lie worked. Morrison and his remaining men fled into the dust. As the townsfolk dispersed, Jesse turned to Amelia, awe in his eyes. She had stood beside him, unshaken, and together they'd won. That night, Amelia didn't lead Jesse to her study or to her separate bedroom. She led him to his. We're whatever we choose to be, Jesse Coulter, she said, closing the door behind them. Later, as they lay entwined, Jesse whispered, No more secrets. No more, Amelia agreed. We've both been reborn. Samuel Wade died in Missouri. Herbert's widow died in that courtroom. Now there's only us. The following weeks were a blur of rebuilding and quiet strength. Jesse and Amelia worked side by side, transforming the ranch into more than just land. It became a symbol of their survival. With Cyrus gone and Morrison humiliated, peace settled temporarily over their lives. For the first time, Amelia allowed herself to breathe deeply without fear of the next blow. They sold the Prescott Ranch to a Texas cattle company, trading grandeur for freedom. The sprawling house, with its white columns and polished windows, was replaced by something humbler, a small adobe home near the Mexican border. The land was wild and unforgiving, red earth, baked hard by relentless sun, scattered cactus and mesquite offering the only hints of green. But to Jesse and Amelia, it was paradise. No servants to gossip, Amelia said their first morning, standing barefoot in the doorway as dawn painted the desert in crimson hues. No society matrons to judge, Jesse added, wrapping his arms around her waist. No bitter relatives scheming to ruin us, she finished, leaning back into his embrace. Just simple life and sunshine, Jesse murmured. No regrets? None, Amelia replied firmly. For the first time, I'm exactly where I want to be. They worked tirelessly to shape their new home. Jesse dug irrigation channels, built fences, and expanded the corral. His hands, already rough from years of ranch work, grew tougher still. Amelia shed the last vestiges of her old life. Gone were the stiff black dresses and carefully styled hair. She wore simple cotton now, her skin bronzed by the desert sun, her hair often braided loosely down her back. Their nearest neighbors, the Delgado family, welcomed them warmly. Senora Delgado taught Amelia to make tortillas and tend a desert herb garden, while Carlos Delgado helped Jesse dig a deeper well. In return, Jesse shared his knowledge of horses, showing Carlos's sons the gentling techniques Samuel Yellow Feather had taught him years ago. 3 months into this peaceful existence, Amelia startled Jesse with unexpected news. Over breakfast, she set down her coffee cup and said, almost shyly, "I'm pregnant." Jesse froze, mid-bite. Are you certain?" "As certain as a woman can be," Amelia said, watching him anxiously. "I know this wasn't planned. A child. It changes everything." He was around the table in 2 strides, lifting her into his arms and spinning her in a circle. "A baby. Our baby. Amelia, you've given me more than I ever dreamed. You're happy," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "Happy?" Jesse's voice cracked. "Amelia, I never thought I'd have a real family. This is a miracle." From that day, Jesse took on the heaviest work. Despite Amelia's protests, he treated her like precious glass, building a sturdy cradle from mesquite wood, sanding it smooth with infinite care. At night, they sat outside under the stars. Jesse played simple, haunting tunes on his harmonica while Amelia hummed along, one hand resting protectively on her growing belly. But paradise never lasted long in the territories. Trouble rode in under cover of darkness when Amelia was 7 months along. Jesse woke to the distant thunder of hooves too many for honest travelers. He rolled from bed, grabbing his rifle. "Stay inside," he whispered, kissing Amelia's forehead. "Like hell," she growled, already reaching for her own weapon despite the swell of her stomach. Partners, remember? Outside, 6 shadowy riders surrounded their home. "Coulter," a voice called. "Or should we say Samuel Wade? Come out, we've got business." Jesse's blood went cold. Bounty hunters. They'd tracked his past all the way here. "Stay hidden," he urged Amelia. "If things go bad, run to the Delgados." "I won't leave you," she cried, clutching his arm. The leader shouted again. "We've got paper on you from Kansas. A widow wants justice for her dead husband, Thomas Brennan." Jesse's heart dropped. Brennan, the horse thief who'd tried to steal his mare. The killing that had led him straight to Amelia. Somehow, they'd connected the dots. "That was self-defense," Jesse shouted back. "Maybe so," the leader sneered. "But the widow's paying for your head. Come quiet. We take you alive. Make us work for it. And we'll bring you in dead." Amelia's face hardened. "They'll kill us both if you surrender." "I won't let them hurt you," Jesse swore. "Or the baby." He stepped onto the porch, rifle ready but low. "Let my wife ride to the neighbors. She's heavy with child." "She's no part of this." Harsh laughter answered him. "The wife stays. Can't risk her fetching help," Amelia whispered fiercely. "We fight." Jesse looked at her brave, stubborn, beautiful. His heart ached with love and fear. "All right," he called to the hunters. "I'm coming out. But if one of you moves toward the house, the deal's off." As he stepped forward, movement flickered at the edge of the desert. Riders approached fast. The bounty hunters turned, startled. Carlos Delgado and his 3 eldest sons charged into the yard, rifles leveled. "Evening, gentlemen," Carlos said coolly. "Bit late for social calls, isn't it?" "This ain't your business, Mexican," the leader spat. "The Coulters are our neighbors," Carlos replied. "Their business is our business. Now you want to gamble with 4 rifles pointed at you or ride away while you still can?" "There are 6 of us," the leader blustered. Carlos's cold smile deepened. "There were 6. The one guarding the road ran into a rattlesnake. Very unfortunate." The hunters wavered. They were professionals, not fools. A shootout wasn't worth the money. "This ain't over, Wade," the leader snarled. "That paper's good anywhere." "Not Wade," Jesse said, voice like iron. "Coulter. And I'm not hiding. Just living." The bounty hunters rode off into the night, leaving only silence and the smell of smoke. Amelia sagged against Jesse, clutching her belly. "They'll come back. Or others will." Carlos nodded grimly. "A man can't live, looking over his shoulder forever." That night, Jesse and Amelia lay awake, their newborn dream tarnished by reality. "We could run deeper into Mexico," Amelia whispered. change our names again, disappear completely. Running forever isn't living, Jesse said bitterly. But staying here might get us killed. Amelia's hand closed over his. Whatever happens, we face it together. You, me, and this baby. Jesse kissed her knuckles, heart breaking at her faith in him. A month later, Amelia's labor began at dawn. Jesse paced the yard like a caged animal, every scream tearing through him like a bullet. Finally, at dusk, a new cry split the air, small, fierce, alive. Senora Delgado emerged from the house, smiling. A son, strong and healthy. Inside, Amelia lay pale but glowing, cradling a tiny bundle. "Say hello to your son," she whispered, passing the baby to Jesse. Jesse's hands trembled. He'd held wild colts before, but nothing prepared him for this fragile miracle. "Hey there, little man," he murmured. "Welcome to the world." "He needs a name," Amelia said softly. Jesse looked at the child, then at Amelia. "Thomas Carlos Coulter, after the man whose death brought me to you and the man whose courage saved us." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "Thomas," she whispered, kissing her son's head. Thomas yawned, tiny fists waving in sleepy protest. For that night, danger faded. The past could wait. In their small adobe home, the Coulters were simply a family together, whole and deeply in love. But Jesse knew peace in the territories was always temporary. Somewhere out there, horses were saddled, rifles loaded, and men plotted. And when they came, he'd be ready. Because now he had more than land or pride to fight for. He had a wife, he had a son, he had a future worth dying to protect. The night riders came when Thomas was barely 3 weeks old. Their torches lit up the desert like rivers of fire, shadows leaping wildly across the sand. Jesse had been waiting for this moment. A man didn't live on borrowed time without knowing when the debt would come due. "Fire!" Amelia's scream split the night. Jesse bolted upright, grabbing his rifle. Through the window, he saw their small barn already engulfed in flames, cattle crying in terror. Dark figures moved like ghosts, circling their home, deliberate and merciless. The past had found them. Jesse shoved Amelia toward the back room. "Take Thomas and go. Run to the Delgados." Her green eyes blazed. "I'm not leaving you." "You have to," he said fiercely, gripping her shoulders. "This is about me, not you. They want Samuel Wade, not Jesse Coulter, not our family. Run." The front door exploded inward. Jesse fired twice, driving the intruders back. Smoke and heat poured in, searing his lungs. "Through the window!" he roared. He hoisted Amelia up, shoving her and the screaming baby into the night. "Run and don't look back!" She stumbled into the darkness, heartbreaking, but obeyed. Jesse turned, determined to hold the line alone. A shot cracked from outside. Agony exploded in his shoulder, spinning him to the floor. His rifle clattered uselessly away. Rough hands grabbed him, dragging him through the burning doorway. "Got him!" a voice shouted. "Wade's down." Jesse's blurred vision caught a last glimpse of his world burning, the home they'd built, reduced to embers, their dreams collapsing into ash. A boot slammed into his ribs. "Should have come quiet when we asked nice," one hunter sneered. "Now you're gonna fetch us twice the bounty." They bound his hands, throwing him over a horse like a sack of grain. As consciousness faded, Jesse's last thought was of Amelia and Thomas, praying they'd escaped. Dawn broke over unfamiliar hills. Jesse jolted awake to the sway of horseback, pain searing through his body. "About time," the leader sneered. "Thought you'd die and cheat us out of pay." "My wife," Jesse croaked, his throat raw. The leader's smirk turned cruel. "Probably coyote food by now. Desert's unforgiving to women and babies." Rage flared white-hot, but Jesse stayed silent. If Amelia was alive, he'd find her. If not, then there was no reason left to fight. But Amelia Prescott Coulter was made of iron wrapped in velvet. She had run through darkness and thorn bushes, her nightgown torn, feet bleeding, clutching Thomas to her chest. She collapsed at the Delgado gates just as dawn painted the horizon. "Jesse," she gasped, shoving Thomas into Senora Delgado's arms. They took Jesse. Carlos Delgado didn't hesitate. His sons were already saddling horses. Which way, Senora? He demanded. North, Amelia panted. 6 men, maybe 7. They shot him. Carlos's face hardened. We'll find him. He barked orders to his men. Juan, ride to town. Tell Hayes. Get the real marshal from Santa Fe. Miguel, spread word among the ranchers. Frontier justice will answer this. But Amelia wasn't content to wait. Despite Senora Delgado's protests, she demanded a horse. I won't sit here wringing my hands while they kill my husband, she shouted. The men knew better than to argue with a woman like Amelia. They rode out together, a storm of vengeance on the desert wind. The trail was easy to follow. The bounty hunters were confident, leaving deep hoofprints and ash from their campfires. By noon, Carlos's group had grown to 12 riders. Word spread like wildfire. The Coulters had been wronged, and neighbors wouldn't stand idle. They caught up at Skeleton Creek, the same dry bed where Amelia had first found Jesse half dead months ago. The symbolism was bitter. The hunters had stopped to water their horses. Jesse hung limp, tied face down over a saddle. Stay back, Carlos warned Amelia. But she was already spurring her horse forward, riding straight into their camp like a dark, avenging angel. The hunters froze, startled by the sight of a lone woman with fire in her eyes. I'm Amelia Coulter, she announced, her voice ringing. And you have my husband. The leader laughed harshly. Well, well, the widow rides to say goodbye. Touching. I've come to make an offer. She drew a leather pouch from her saddlebag. $500 in gold, she declared. All I have left. Take it and ride away. Leave him here. The leader sneered. His bounty's worth twice that in Kansas alive. If he survives the trip. And if he doesn't? Amelia's voice was razor sharp. If the widow changes her mind? If the law pockets your pay? You could ride away now, gold in hand, or gamble on promises that may never come. The hunters exchanged uneasy glances. The logic was sound, but the leader shook his head stubbornly. Nice try, lady. But we've got our reputation to think of. Reputation? Amelia's laugh was cold as ice. Rifles clicked on the ridges around them. Carlos and his men had circled the camp, unseen until now. The hunters froze, realizing they were outnumbered. Yes, Amelia said, voice carrying like a queen's decree. Let's talk about reputation. How will it look when everyone hears you burned out a home with a newborn baby inside? Shot a man in the back? Heroes, indeed. He's a wanted killer, one hunter shouted, desperate. He's a husband and a father who defended himself against a thief, Amelia countered. Every man here has fought to protect what's his. Her gaze swept the gathered riders. But you're jackals feeding on other people's pain. You've got 2 choices. Leave empty-handed but alive, or stay and let the desert hide your bones. The moment stretched taut as a bowstring. Jesse, barely conscious, heard her words through a haze of pain and awe. His Amelia no longer, the woman who'd hidden behind mourning clothes, but a warrior standing tall for him. Finally, the leader spat in the dust. Cut him loose. Rough hands untied Jesse, dumping him at Amelia's feet before they fled into the horizon with curses trailing behind them. Amelia was off her horse in an instant, cradling Jesse's battered head in her lap. I'm here, she whispered fiercely. You're safe now. We're taking you home. Home's gone, Jesse rasped, his voice raw, burned. Then we'll build another, she vowed, tears streaking her dirt-stained face. As many as it takes. But you don't get to leave us, Jesse Coulter. You promised me for better or worse. The ride back was a blur of pain and determination. Jesse drifted in and out of consciousness, but every time he opened his eyes, Amelia was there, fierce and unyielding. When he finally woke clearly, it was in a soft bed at the Delgado home. His shoulder was expertly bandaged. Amelia sat beside him, Thomas sleeping in her arms, her own eyes shadowed from exhaustion. She hasn't left your side, Senora Delgado said softly. 3 days she sat there, stubborn woman. The best kind, Jesse whispered hoarsely. Amelia's head snapped up at the sound of his voice. Jesse, she gripped his hand like a lifeline. Don't you ever scare me like that again. The house, he croaked. Just wood and stone, she said fiercely. We are what matters. She kissed his forehead. Hayes sent word. Your kidnapping made the territorial papers. Public opinion is turning. Even the governor's involved. And Brennan's widow? Jesse asked weakly. Amelia's eyes gleamed. She's withdrawn her complaint. Seems she remembered her late husband wasn't exactly a saint. The warrants are cancelled, Jesse. You're free. Relief crashed over him, dizzying and sweet. For the first time, there was no shadow of Samuel Wade hanging over his head. Recovery took weeks. Jesse's burns and wounds healed slowly, but each day he grew stronger, driven by love and purpose. The community rallied. The territorial government, embarrassed by the scandal, offered compensation for the destruction. Neighbors pitched in to rebuild. 6 weeks later, Jesse stood with Amelia and Thomas in the doorway of their new home. It was sturdier, larger, with a proper nursery and a fortified barn. It's better than before, Amelia said, tears shining in her eyes. Everything's better than before, Jesse agreed, his gaze on her and their son rather than the walls. That evening, Hayes arrived with final papers. No more Samuel Wade, the lawyer said, smiling. Jesse Coulter is now a matter of permanent record. Your land, your marriage, your future secure. Jesse took the papers reverently. I don't know how to thank you. Live well, Hayes said simply. Be happy. That's thanks enough. After Hayes left, Jesse and Amelia sat on their porch. Thomas nestled between them as stars filled the vast desert sky. No more running, Amelia said softly. No more secrets, Jesse agreed. Just us, she whispered. And whatever comes next. What do you think comes next? She asked, watching Thomas's tiny chest rise and fall. Ordinary things, Jesse said with a wistful smile. Cattle drives, good years and bad. Watching this little one grow, growing old together. That sounds perfect, Amelia said, leaning her head on his shoulder. A coyote's howl echoed across the desert, once a sound of loneliness, now a call of belonging. You know, Jesse said thoughtfully, a year ago, I was dying out there, thought I'd never belong anywhere. And now, he gestured to Amelia, Thomas, and their home. Now I'm the richest man in the territory. Amelia smiled through tears. We built this ourselves, Jesse. With love, with pain, with fire, and ashes. Thomas stirred, and Amelia lifted him into her arms. Jesse watched them with awe, overwhelmed by the fragile, fierce beauty of his family. I love you, he said simply. And we love you, Amelia whispered back. As the desert wind sang through the mesquite, Jesse played his harmonica, soft notes drifting into the night. Amelia hummed along, Thomas cooing in his sleep. They had faced hell together and emerged whole. Whatever storms came next, they would weather them side by side. Under the vast New Mexico sky, Jesse and Amelia Coulter were finally, truly home. Their love story wasn't a fairy tale, it was forged in fire, blood, and redemption. And it was only just beginning.